There is a specific kind of silence that falls over a room right before a bomb goes off. It's heavy. It's suffocating. That was the silence in my small apartment living room last Tuesday night. I looked around at the faces of the people who share my DNA. My mother, Linda, was smoothing her skirt, avoiding my eyes. My father, Robert, was staring at the wall with his arms crossed, his jaw set in that stubborn way I knew too well. And then there was my younger sister, Tiffany, and her husband, Caleb. Caleb was sprawled out on my recliner like he owned it, picking his teeth with a calmness that made my blood boil. "I'm sorry," I said, my voice dangerously steady. "I think I misheard you. Can you repeat that?" My mother finally looked up. She offered me that tight, pained smile she uses when she wants something expensive. "Kristen, honey, don't be difficult. We're just talking about a transfer of management, a reallocation of resources within the family." "Reallocation?" I repeated, tasting the word like spoiled milk. "Caleb needs this," my father grunted, finally speaking. "He's been out of work for 8 months. They have 3 kids, Kristen, 3 mouths to feed. You're single. You don't have those kinds of burdens." So, I stood up, walking slowly to the window that overlooked the street where my pride and joy, the Golden Grill, was parked. "Let me get this straight. You want me to sign over the title of my food truck, the business I built from nothing, the business that pays my rent, my bills, and buys my food. You want me to just give it to Caleb?" "Not give," Tiffany piped up, her voice shrill. "Think of it as him taking over the operations. You can still work there, maybe prep in the mornings, but Caleb needs to be the face of it. He needs the salary of an owner. Men need that dignity, Kristen. You know how it is." I looked at Caleb. He smirked. He didn't look like a man searching for dignity. He looked like a man who had just found a winning lottery ticket on the sidewalk and was waiting to cash it in. "And what am I supposed to do?" I asked, turning back to them. "If Caleb takes the owner's draw, how do I pay my rent?" My mother waved her hand dismissively, as if my livelihood was a trivial detail. "Oh, you're smart, Kristen. You're so resilient. You always land on your feet. You could go back to event planning or get a job at a grocery store temporarily. The point is, your sister is drowning. Family helps family." The rage didn't hit me all at once. It started as a cold knot in my stomach and spread outward, freezing my veins. Family helps family. The irony was so sharp it almost cut my throat. I looked at the deed to the truck sitting on my counter. I looked at the ledger where I tracked every single penny I earned. They didn't see the blood, sweat, and tears. They just saw a cash cow. They saw an ATM with my face on it. "Get out," I whispered. "Excuse me?" Caleb sat up, his smirk fading. "I said, get out," I said louder, pointing at the door. "Get out of my apartment, now." "You're being selfish." Tiffany screamed, standing up so fast her chair tipped over. "You have everything. You have this apartment, that truck, all that money rolling in every day. We are struggling to buy diapers, and you're hoarding it all. How can you be so heartless?" "Heartless?" I laughed, a dry, humorless sound. "Heartless is watching your daughter sleep in a parking lot and closing the blinds. Get out before I call the police." The mention of the police made my father stiffen. He stood up, towering over me. "You will regret this, Kristen. You're turning your back on your blood." "My blood turned its back on me 3 years ago," I replied, holding his gaze. I didn't blink. I wasn't the scared little girl anymore. I was a business owner. I was a survivor, and I was done being the victim. They shuffled out, muttering curses and insults. Caleb bumped my shoulder hard on his way out, whispering, "This isn't over, bitch." I locked the door behind them. I engaged the deadbolt, then the chain. Then I slid down against the door and let out a breath I felt like I'd been holding for a lifetime. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from the adrenaline of finally saying no. They wanted my truck, they wanted the golden grill, over my dead body. But I knew they wouldn't stop here. I knew my family. They were like termites. They didn't stop until they had eaten everything of value. I needed to be ready. To understand why my refusal was so explosive, you have to understand where I was 3 years ago. You see, I wasn't always a food truck owner. In early 2020, I was a successful event coordinator at a luxury hotel downtown. I had a 401k, I had health insurance, I had a life plan. Then the world shut down. The hotel closed its doors permanently in May. My savings, which I thought were substantial, evaporated after 2 months of rent and student loans. I remember the day I got evicted. The landlord was apologetic, but business is business. I sold my furniture, I sold my clothes, I packed my entire life into 2 suitcases and loaded them into my 10-year-old Honda Civic. I drove 3 hours to my parents' house. I didn't call first. I assumed I didn't have to. I was their daughter. I was in trouble. Surely the door would be open. It was raining when I pulled into their driveway. The house looked warm, glowing with yellow light. I saw silhouettes moving inside. I knocked, shivering, my hair plastered to my face. My mother opened the door. She didn't hug me. She blocked the entrance with her body. "Kristen, what are you doing here?" "Mom, I lost the apartment," I choked out, fighting back tears. "I have nowhere to go. I just need a place to crash for a few weeks until I find a job. Just the couch, or the basement." She sighed, looking over her shoulder. "Oh, honey, that's not going to work. Tiffany and Caleb and the kids, they moved back in 6 months ago. The house is full." "The basement?" I begged. "I have an air mattress in the car." "We turned the basement into a playroom for the boys," she said, her voice devoid of urgency. "And Caleb needs his privacy. Having you here, it would just be too much chaos. You understand, right?" I looked past her. I saw Tiffany walking through the hallway holding a glass of wine. She looked at me, saw my wet clothes, saw the desperation in my eyes, and she just took a sip of wine and turned away. "But Mom, I'm sleeping in my car," I whispered. "You're 31, Kristen." My father's voice came from behind her. He didn't even come to the door. "Figure it out. Tiffany has 4 mouths to feed and she manages. You're smart. You'll be fine." The door closed. I heard the lock click. That night, I parked in a Walmart parking lot. I reclined the driver's seat. It was 30 degrees outside. I had every layer of clothing I owned on my body, and I was still shaking. I watched people walking into the store, buying groceries, buying heaters, going home to warm beds. I felt like a ghost. I felt like I had died and nobody had told me yet. The next day was Thanksgiving. I didn't have anywhere to go. I drove back to my parents' neighborhood and parked down the street, hidden by a large oak tree. I just wanted to see. I watched through the bay window. I saw the turkey on the table. I saw Caleb carving it, laughing. I saw my mother pouring gravy. I saw my father holding one of Tiffany's kids. They looked like a Norman Rockwell painting. They looked perfect. They were eating a feast while their eldest daughter ate cold peanut butter on stale bread in a freezing car 500 feet away. Something broke inside me that day. But it wasn't a break that shattered me into pieces. It was a break that snapped things into focus. I realized that the love I had been chasing my whole life was a lie. I was the scapegoat. I was the one who was expected to be perfect, to ask for nothing, to give everything. Tiffany was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong, the one who needed help while I was punished for being competent. I wiped the tears from my face. I looked at my reflection in the rearview mirror. My eyes were red, my skin was pale, but there was a fire kindling in my pupils. Never again, I told myself. I will never, ever ask them for a damn thing again. That was the lowest point of my life, the abyss. But down there in the dark, I found something valuable. I found the realization that if I was going to survive, I had to be my own hero. I had to be my own provider. And I swore to myself, if I ever got out of that car, I would build a fortress so high that they could never hurt me again. Climbing out of homelessness isn't a montage in a movie. It's a slow, grinding, painful crawl. For 4 months, I lived in that car. I learned which gas stations had clean bathrooms and unlocked doors at 5 a.m. I learned how to sponge bath in a stall without making a sound. I learned that hunger is a sharp pain for the first 2 days, and then it becomes a dull, constant headache. I got a job at a warehouse packing boxes, minimum wage, physically brutal. But the manager, a guy named Mike, let me park my car behind the warehouse at night. He ran an extension cord out the back door so I could plug in a small space heater. That man saved my life. He showed me more kindness in one gesture than my parents had in 30 years. I worked every shift available, double shifts, holidays, weekends. I didn't spend a dime. I ate instant noodles and drank tap water. I saved every single dollar. 6 months in, I was promoted to shift supervisor. My salary bumped up. I could have rented an apartment then, but I didn't. I stayed in the car. I had a vision now. I had found an old listing on Craigslist, a decommissioned delivery truck. It was ugly. It was rusted. It smelled vaguely of old cabbage, but it had an engine that ran, and it was cheap, $12,000. I bought it. My coworkers thought I was insane. "Kristen, get a roof over your head," they said. But I knew that a roof meant rent, and rent meant I was building someone else's equity. I wanted to build mine. I spent my nights inside that metal box. I watched YouTube tutorials on how to install insulation, how to wire electricity, how to weld stainless steel. I cut my hands, I burned my arms, I cried from exhaustion. But every screw I turned, every sheet of metal I polished, was a brick in my fortress. I decided on burgers, not just any burgers. Burgers made with my Grandma Rose's secret sauce. Grandma Rose was the only person in my family who had ever truly loved me. She passed away when I was 20, and she left me nothing but her old recipe book and a cast iron skillet. My mother had thrown the book in the trash. I had dug it out. The Golden Grill wasn't just a business plan. It was a tribute. It took me 18 months. 18 months of sleeping in a car, working 10 hours at the warehouse, then working 6 hours on the truck. I lost weight. I had dark circles under my eyes permanently, but the truck was transforming. I painted it a bright, defiant gold. I installed a professional grill. I got my permits. I remember the day I quit the warehouse job. I handed in my badge to Mike. "You sure about this, kid?" he asked, looking at the bright yellow truck parked out back. "I've never been more sure of anything," I said. I had exactly $500 left in my bank account after buying the initial inventory of beef and buns. If this failed, I wasn't just back to square one. I was back to zero. The night before opening, I sat in the driver's seat of the Golden Grill. It smelled like bleach and fresh oil. It was clean. It was mine. The title was in my name. No one could kick me out. No one could tell me there's no room. I opened Grandma Rose's recipe book to the page marked sauce. Her handwriting was shaky, but the words were clear. "Cooking is love made visible, Chrissy. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." I touched the paper. "Okay, Grandma," I whispered. "Let's show them what we can do." I didn't call my parents to tell them I was opening a business. I didn't want their bad energy. I didn't want their doubt. This was my victory. I went to sleep that night on a mattress in the back of the truck, tighter than a sardine can, but I slept like a baby. I was terrifyingly alone, but for the first time in years, I wasn't lonely. I was building. June 12th, opening day. I parked the Golden Grill downtown near the business district. My hands were shaking so bad, I almost dropped the spatula. I flipped the open sign. For the first hour, nothing happened. People walked by, glancing at the bright gold truck, but nobody stopped. The doubt started to creep in. What if I'm delusional? What if the sauce isn't that good? What if I'm just a homeless girl playing pretend? Then an old man walked up. He was wearing a tweed suit that looked too hot for the weather, and he had a scowl that could curdle milk. He leaned on his cane and squinted at my menu. $12 for a burger? He grumbled. This better be made of gold, young lady. It's the Golden Grill, sir, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. If you don't like it, I'll give you your money back, plus $10 for wasting your time. He raised an eyebrow. Bold. I like bold. Give me the classic. I cooked that burger with the focus of a brain surgeon. I toasted the bun. I melted the cheddar perfectly. I ladled on Grandma Rose's sauce. He took a bite. He chewed slowly. He closed his eyes. My heart stopped beating. Then he opened his eyes and looked at me. The scowl was gone. This, he said, pointing a finger at me, is the best damn burger I've had since 1974. He dropped a $20 bill in the tip jar. Keep the change. I'll be back tomorrow. That was Mr. Henderson. I didn't know it then, but that grumpy old man was a retired judge and a pillar of the local community. After he sat on a nearby bench eating his burger with obvious delight, people noticed. A line started to form. By noon, the line wrapped around the block. The smell of the caramelized onions and the secret sauce wafted down the street, acting like a siren song. I moved into a flow state. Flip, season, cheese, bun, sauce, wrap. Flip, season, cheese, bun, sauce, wrap. By 3 p.m., I was sold out, completely. I closed the window and sat down on the floor of the truck, covered in grease and sweat. I counted the cash. $800. In one day. That was more than I made in a week at the warehouse. I cried. I sobbed into my apron. Not tears of sadness, but tears of pure, overwhelming relief. I wasn't going to starve. Over the next 6 months, the Golden Grill became a local sensation. I was featured in the local paper. From homeless to hotspot, the headline read. I hired an assistant, a sweet college kid named Leo. I moved out of the truck and rented a real apartment, a 1-bedroom with a balcony and a dishwasher. The first time I ran the dishwasher, I just sat on the floor and watched it, listening to the swishing water. It sounded like a symphony. I started building a savings account. I called it my Freedom Fund. Every deposit was a layer of armor. Mr. Henderson came every single day at 11:30 a.m. sharp. We developed a strange friendship. He told me about his days on the bench, about the liars and the cheats he had put away. I told him about the warehouse, about the car. I never told him about my family, though. I was too ashamed. You have a good head on your shoulders, Kristen, he told me one day, wiping ketchup from his chin. You keep your records clean. You document everything. In business, paper is your shield. I took that advice to heart. I kept meticulous receipts. I installed cameras in the truck, not just for security against thieves, but because as a single woman working late, I needed to feel safe. I was happy. For the first time in my adult life, I was truly, independently happy. I had friends who liked me for me, not for what I could do for them. I had a purpose. But happiness, I learned, is a beacon. And beacons don't just guide ships to safety, they also attract sharks. I should have known that my success couldn't stay hidden forever. The article in the local paper, the social media buzz, it was only a matter of time before the algorithm said my success to the people who wanted me to fail. It happened on a Tuesday, ironically, the same day of the week they would later demand my truck. I was working the lunch rush, moving fast. Leo was taking orders. Suddenly, the chatter in the line changed. It went from the low hum of hungry people to an awkward, quiet tension. Well, look at this. The Queen of Burgers deigns to grace us with her presence. The voice cut through me like a knife. I froze. I looked out the service window. There they were, the whole clan. Tiffany, Caleb, their 3 kids, my mom, and my dad. They were standing right at the front of the line, having apparently cut in front of about 20 people. Tiffany was wearing oversized sunglasses and holding her phone up, live streaming. Hey guys, we are here at my sister's food truck. Look at this, it's so cute. Hashtag family business, hashtag sisters supporting sisters. My stomach dropped. I wiped my hands on a towel and leaned out. Hi, I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. What are you doing here? Supporting you, my mom beamed, but her eyes were scanning the truck, calculating the value of the equipment. We saw the article on Facebook. Why didn't you tell us? I've been busy, I said. Well, we're starving, Caleb announced. He leaned his elbow on the counter, burping loudly. He smelled like stale beer and cigarettes. Give us 5 of those golden specials, and make 'em extra cheesy, and fries for the kids and drinks. Okay, Leo said, tapping the screen. That will be $87.50. Caleb laughed, a loud, obnoxious bark. 87? Kid, do you know who we are? We're family. We don't pay. He looked at me, expecting me to nod. The line behind them was getting restless. Mr. Henderson was 3 people back, leaning on his cane, watching with hawk eyes. I can give you my employee discount, I said quietly. 50% off. That's the best I can do. Food costs are high. 50%? Tiffany screeched, lowering her phone but keeping the camera on me. Kristen, are you serious? We drove an hour to get here. You're going to charge your own mother for a burger? It's a business, Tiffany, I said, my cheeks burning. I have to account for inventory. Unbelievable, Caleb muttered, loud enough for everyone to hear. She gets a little money and suddenly she's too good for us. Cheapskate. The customers were staring. I felt that familiar shame, the one that made me want to shrink until I disappeared. I just wanted them gone. I wanted them to leave before they made a bigger scene. Fine, I snapped. It's on the house. Just take the food and please move aside. You're blocking paying customers. I cooked their food in a fury. I slapped the burgers together. I handed the bags to Leo, who looked terrified. They took the food without a thank you. They didn't leave, though. They sat at the picnic tables right next to the truck. Caleb sprawled out, taking up an entire bench. The kids ran wild, throwing ketchup packets at each other. Tiffany continued to livestream, but now the narrative had shifted. So, yeah, the food is okay, I heard her say into her phone. But the service? Wow, my sister is so stressed out. I think she's overwhelmed. It's sad, really. She clearly needs help managing this. Caleb started hassling a young woman sitting nearby. Hey, sweetheart, you gonna eat that pickle? Why don't you smile? The woman looked terrified. I saw Mr. Henderson stand up and walk over to Caleb. Sir, Mr. Henderson said, his voice low and gravelly, you are disturbing the peace. Eat your meal and be quiet, or I will have you removed. Caleb stood up, puffing his chest out. Who are you, Grandpa? You want to go? "Caleb, sit down," my father barked, finally intervening, not because Caleb was wrong, but because people were filming. I watched from the window, shaking with rage. They were polluting my sanctuary. They were staining the one thing I had built that was pure. They finally left after an hour, leaving a mountain of trash on the table. Wrappers, spilled soda, half-eaten fries. As they walked to their car, Tiffany turned back and shouted, "We'll call you later. We need to talk about the business." That phrase chilled me to the bone. The business. Not your business. The business. I cleaned up their mess personally, apologizing to every customer who had witnessed the spectacle. Mr. Henderson stayed behind. "Family?" he asked. "Unfortunately," I replied. "Be careful, Kristen," he said, tapping his cane on the pavement. "Parasites don't detach until they've sucked the host dry. You need to guard this truck like it's Fort Knox." He was right. I just didn't know how right he was. Returning to the timeline of part 1, expanding on the manipulation. The day after the visit, the texts started. "Mom, we need to talk. Family dinner. Tuesday night. Be home." Tiffany, "Don't be late. It's important." I knew I shouldn't have let them in, but the conditioning of a lifetime is hard to break. I opened the door, and that leads us back to the moment I kicked them out. But what happened after I threatened to call the police is where the real psychological warfare began. I thought kicking them out was the end of it. I was wrong. It was the bell for round 2. 10 minutes after they left, my phone rang. It was my mother. I let it go to voicemail. She called again and again. Finally, a text popped up. "Mom, please pick up. Dad is having chest pains. He's so upset." Panic is a reflex. Even after everything, the idea of my father having a heart attack because of me, it worked. I picked up. "Is he okay?" I asked, breathless. "He's resting," my mother said, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. "His blood pressure is through the roof, Kristen. You really scared him. You know he has a weak heart." "He seemed fine when he was screaming at me to give away my business," I said, gripping the phone. "Oh, Kristen." "You're misunderstanding everything," she cooed. This was her superpower, gaslighting. She could rewrite history while it was still happening. "We aren't trying to take anything from you. We're trying to expand the family legacy. Think about it. You're a woman alone in a dangerous city. Operating a food truck is dangerous work. Caleb just wants to protect you. He wants to take the heavy lifting off your shoulders." "I lift my own boxes, Mom. I've been doing it for years." "But for how long?" she pressed. "You're 34. Don't you want to settle down? Have a husband? Babies? You can't do that smelling like grease every day. We're doing this for you. Caleb runs the truck, you get a percentage, a fair percentage, and you get your life back. You can find a nice office job. Something ladylike." "I sleep in a bed I bought," I said, my voice trembling with suppressed anger. "I pay bills with money I earned. That is my life. I don't want an office job, and I certainly don't want Caleb, who can't even hold a job at a gas station, running my company." "He's just had bad luck," she snapped, the mask slipping for a second. "And he has a family to support. Why are you so selfish? You have so much, and your sister has nothing. She has a husband. She has parents who let her live rent-free. She has a car I saw Dad pay for. I lived in a parking lot, Mom, a parking lot. Where was the family help then?" Silence on the other end. "That was your choice," she said coldly. "You were too proud to ask nicely." I almost dropped the phone. The revisionist history was breathtaking. "I begged you," I whispered. "I stood at your door in the rain and begged you." I don't remember that, she said instantly. I remember you throwing a tantrum and running away to play victim. But that's in the past. We are talking about now. Caleb needs this truck. He's in a bad place, Kristen. He needs a win. If he doesn't feel like a provider, I don't know what he'll do. So I have to sacrifice my livelihood to soothe his ego? It's just a truck, Kristen. It's not a child. Why do you love a vehicle more than your nephew and nieces? Because the truck never abandoned me, I said, and I hung up. I blocked her number. Then I blocked Dad. Then Tiffany. Then Caleb. I sat in my apartment, the silence heavy again. But this time, it wasn't the silence of a bomb. It was the silence of clarity. They weren't going to stop. My mother's tone, the desperation in her voice when she talked about Caleb needing a win. It felt desperate, too desperate. Why was it so urgent? Why did they need my truck specifically? Why not help him start his own? Something wasn't adding up. I walked over to my desk and opened my laptop. I pulled up the security camera feed from inside the truck. It was parked in a secure lot about 3 blocks away, but I paid extra for a spot with Wi-Fi so I could monitor it 24/7. The truck sat there, golden and quiet under the street lamps. I felt a chill run down my spine. Mr. Henderson, I muttered to myself. Parasites don't detach. I grabbed my keys. I drove to the lot. I needed to see it with my own eyes. I needed to make sure it was safe. When I got there, everything was fine, but I stood there for an hour just watching it. I realized then that I was at war. And in a war, you don't just defend, you gather intelligence. I took out my phone and called the one person I knew could help me navigate the legal storm that was coming, Sarah, my old college roommate, now a contract lawyer. Hey, I said when she picked up, it's Kristen. I need to hire you on retainer, tonight. Kristen, it's midnight. What's wrong? My family, I said. They're coming for everything. The escalation was rapid. It wasn't a slow burn. It was a wildfire. The next morning, I woke up to a barrage of notifications. Since I had blocked their numbers, they took their war to the public square, Facebook. Tiffany had posted a long, rambling status update. It breaks my heart to say this, but sometimes family is the most toxic thing in your life. My wealthy sister, who owns the famous Golden Grill, refuses to help her own nieces and nephews who are struggling. We asked for a small loan, a partnership to help my husband get back on his feet, and she laughed in our faces. She kicked our parents out of her house. Money really changes people. #heartbroken, toxic family, boycott Golden Grill. The comments were a mix of her friends supporting her and strangers asking for context, but the damage was intended to be personal. I met Sarah at a coffee shop before I opened the truck. I showed her the post. I played her the voicemails I had saved before blocking them. Sarah, who was usually bubbly and cheerful, looked grim. This is bad, Kristen. They're building a narrative. If they can paint you as unstable or negligent, they might try something legal. Unlikely to succeed, but annoying. What do I do? Cease and desist letter, Sarah said, pulling out a notepad. Harassment, defamation, and we need to lock down your assets. Make sure the title, the business license, the insurance, everything is watertight. If they try to claim they invested money in the truck, we need proof they didn't. They didn't give me a dime, I said. Good. Gather those bank statements. And Kristen, get more cameras. If they are this desperate, they might escalate physically. I went to the truck. Mr. Henderson was there early, waiting. You look like hell, he said. Thanks, I muttered, unlocking the service window. My sister is trying to cancel me on Facebook. Let her talk, Mr. Henderson said. The truth has a way of rising, but you need to be smart. Don't engage, don't comment, don't defend yourself online. It makes you look guilty. Silence is power. I followed his advice. I didn't reply to the post. but the silence seemed to infuriate them more. That afternoon, Caleb showed up at the truck. He wasn't drunk this time. He was angry. He didn't stand in line. He walked right up to the side door and pounded on it. "Open up!" he shouted. I checked the monitor. I locked the door tighter. "Go away, Caleb. I'm calling the police." "You think you're so smart," he yelled through the metal. "You think this is yours? We know you used Mom and Dad's money to buy this. We know you stole it from their retirement fund." I froze. What? That was a lie so bold it took my breath away. "You're delusional," I shouted back. "I have the bank records." "We'll see what the court says." He kicked the tire hard, then spat on the logo. "This isn't over. You better watch your back." He stormed off. My hands were shaking so bad I had to close the truck early. I lost the dinner rush revenue. That was $400 gone because of him. I went to an electronics store. I bought 3 tiny battery-operated spy cameras. I hid one inside the napkin dispenser facing the window. I hid one near the grill. And I hid one on the dashboard pointing at the driver's seat. I also installed a kill switch. It's a hidden toggle under the dashboard. Unless you flip it, the engine won't start, even with the key. I felt paranoid. I felt like I was in a movie. But every instinct I had honed during those months of homelessness was screaming, "Danger, protect the shelter." That night, I received an email from an anonymous address. Subject: Watch out. Body: They are looking for spare keys. Dad says he remembers you keeping a spare in a magnetic box under the wheel well. Move it. I stared at the screen. Who sent this? It couldn't be Mom. Definitely not Tiffany or Caleb. Was it Dad? No, he was too under Mom's thumb. Then I remembered. My cousin, Jenny. She was quiet, lived 2 towns over. She was often at their house, but never said much. I went out to the truck in the dark. I reached under the wheel well. The magnetic box was there. I took it. I put the spare key in my pocket. They were planning a heist. My own family was planning to steal my business. I sat in the dark of my apartment, holding the spare key. I felt a cold, hard resolve settle over me. "Okay," I said to the empty room. "You want to play thieves? Let's play." The psychological warfare turned into guerrilla warfare the next week. It started with the reviews. Within 24 hours, the Golden Grill dropped from 4.8 stars to 3.2 on Yelp and Google. Dozens of 1-star reviews flooded in from accounts created that same day. Found a hair in my burger, disgusting. Owner was rude and screamed at my child. Food poisoning. Do not eat here. I knew it was them. The syntax was Tiffany's. The spelling errors were Caleb's. I replied to each one with data. Our records show no transaction at this time. We wear hairnets. We have cameras. But the algorithm punishes you before it exonerates you. Customers slowed down. People walked by, looked at their phones, and kept walking. My revenue dropped 40% in 3 days. Then came the health inspector. He arrived at noon, flashing his badge. We received an anonymous complaint about a rodent infestation. Rodents? I laughed, though I was terrified. "Sir, this truck is cleaner than a hospital operating room." He spent 2 hours tearing my truck apart. He checked the fridge temps. He swabbed the counters. He looked under every floor mat. I stood outside, arms crossed, watching him. Mr. Henderson sat on his bench, watching too. Finally, the inspector came out. He looked annoyed. "Well, whoever called it in lied. This is the cleanest mobile unit I've inspected all year, 100% score." He handed me the A-grade sticker. I slapped it on the window right as he left. I looked at the camera I had hidden. I hoped Tiffany was watching the live stream I hadn't told them about. But the lowest blow came from inside. I had a part-time girl, Jessica. She was 19, sweet, saving for college. She helped me with prep. On Friday, I noticed she was acting weird. jumpy, avoidant. During the lunch rush, I saw her hand hovering over the pot of Grandma Rose's sauce. She was holding a small vial. "Jessica!" I barked. "What is that?" She jumped and dropped the vial. It shattered. A clear liquid pooled on the floor. She burst into tears. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't want to do it." I pulled her out the back door, away from customers. What was in that vial? "Laxatives," she sobbed. "High-concentration laxatives." My blood ran cold. If she had put that in the sauce, I would have poisoned hundreds of people. I would have been sued, shut down, ruined. "Why?" I asked, my voice trembling. "A woman came to me," Jessica cried. "Blonde, fancy sunglasses. She offered me $500. She said it was just a prank. She said you were mean to her. I needed the money for textbooks, Kristen. I'm so sorry." Tiffany. She tried to poison my customers. This wasn't just a family dispute anymore. This was criminal. "You're fired," I told Jessica. "Get your stuff and go. And if the police ask, you better tell them the truth." She ran off, still crying. I closed the truck. I was shaking so hard I couldn't stand. They were trying to kill my business. They didn't care who they hurt. They didn't care if innocent people got sick. They just wanted to destroy me so they could pick up the pieces. I called Sarah. "They tried to poison the food." "We need police," Sarah said. "Now." "No," I said, a dangerous calm taking over. "If I call the police now, it's he said, she said regarding the vial. Jessica is gone. The evidence is on the floor. I need something undeniable." "Kristen, don't be a hero." "I'm not being a hero," I said. "I'm being the bait." I cleaned up the mess. I prepped the truck for the next day, but I made a show of it. I parked the truck in its usual spot in the secure lot, but I accidentally left the side door unlocked. I made sure to do it when I knew Caleb might be watching. I'd seen his beat-up sedan driving past slowly earlier that day. I went home. I opened my laptop. I pulled up the 4 camera feeds. I brewed a pot of coffee. I sat in my dark living room, the blue light of the screen illuminating my face. "Come on," I whispered. "Come and get it." I knew they were desperate. The failed health inspection, the failed poisoning, they were running out of options. And desperate people do stupid things. It was 2 a.m. when the motion sensor alert pinged on my phone. On the screen, 2 shadowy figures approached the truck. One was holding a crowbar. The other was holding a set of bolt cutters. Even in the grain of the night vision, I recognized the slouch, Caleb. And the other one, the hesitation in the walk, my heart broke one last time. It was my father. My father was helping my brother-in-law break into my business to steal it. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I picked up my phone and dialed 911. 911, what is your emergency? There is a robbery in progress at 450 Main Street. 2 men. They are armed with crowbars. I am the owner. I am watching them on camera. Officers are on the way, ma'am. I took a sip of coffee. On the screen, Caleb was smashing the lock I had left open just to make it look real. They were in. "Smile, boys," I whispered. "You're on candid camera." I sat there in the dark, the blue light of my laptop screen painting my face in ghostly hues. On the monitor, the grainy black and white footage played out like a silent film, but I had the audio turned up. I could hear every rustle, every curse word, every heavy breath. Caleb was in the driver's seat. My father was squeezing his large frame into the passenger side, looking around nervously. "Hurry up," my father hissed. His voice sounded thin, terrified. It was a sound I hadn't heard from him often. Usually, he was the booming voice of authority. "Someone's going to see us." "Shut up, old man," Caleb snapped, fumbling under the steering column. "I'm trying to find the ignition wires. I saw a YouTube video on how to do this. It's easy." I took a sip of my coffee, my hand remarkably steady. "Oh, Caleb," I whispered to the screen, "you really think I'd leave the wiring stock?" "It's not starting." Caleb slammed his hand against the dashboard. "Where's the spark? I connected the red and the blue just like the guy said." "Maybe she took the battery," my father suggested, his head swiveling to look out the windshield. "Caleb, we need to go. This feels wrong. This is stealing, Caleb." "It's not stealing," Caleb roared, his voice distorting on the microphone. "It's repossession. We need this asset. Do you want to lose the house? Do you want to be on the street like your loser daughter was? Because that's what's happening next week if I don't get this truck to the buyer in Jersey." I froze. I rewound the audio in my head. Buyer in Jersey? Lose the house? They weren't trying to run the business. They weren't trying to let Caleb manage operations to feel like a man. They were stealing my truck to chop it up and sell it for quick cash. I don't know," my father stammered. "Maybe we can ask her again. Maybe if we tell her about the mortgage." "She doesn't care about us," Caleb spat. "She's sitting in her fancy apartment laughing at us. Now shut up and hold the flashlight steady." Suddenly, a blinding white light flooded the cabin of the truck. On my screen, the image washed out for a second as the external floodlights kicked on. Then, the red and blue strobes began to dance across the interior, reflecting off Caleb's panicked face. "Police, step out of the vehicle with your hands up." The voice of Officer Miller boomed through the audio feed, loud and authoritative. "Oh God, oh God," my father started crying. He literally put his face in his hands and started sobbing. "Drive!" Caleb screamed, twisting the key violently, trying to force the engine to turn over. "Start, you piece of junk! Start!" But the kill switch I had installed, a simple toggle hidden under the floor mat that cut the fuel pump, did its job perfectly. The engine just clicked. "Driver, exit the vehicle now or we will release the canine unit." The door flew open. Caleb didn't step out gracefully. He was yanked out. I watched as he hit the pavement face first. My father followed, moving slowly, his hands trembling in the air. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to," my father was blubbering as they cuffed him. "He made me do it. He said it was legal." "Tell it to the judge, Robert," Officer Miller said. I recognized his voice. I closed my laptop. The show was over. The adrenaline that had been sustaining me for the last hour suddenly drained away, leaving me feeling hollow and incredibly heavy. I drove to the police station. I didn't want to go, but I had to give a statement. When I walked into the precinct, the fluorescent lights hummed loudly. It smelled like stale coffee and floor wax. I saw my mother sitting on a bench in the waiting area. She wasn't in handcuffs. She hadn't been at the scene, but she looked like she had aged 10 years in 10 minutes. She looked up and saw me. For a second, I thought she would apologize. I thought maybe, now, seeing her husband arrested, she would break. Instead, she stood up, her eyes narrowing into slits. "You," she hissed, pointing a shaking finger at me, "you did this. You set them up." "I protected my property," I said, my voice flat. "They broke into my truck, Mom. They were going to sell it." "They were trying to save us," she screamed, causing the desk sergeant to look up. "We are losing the house, Kristen. The bank is foreclosing in 6 days. Caleb found a buyer who would pay cash for the truck, enough to pay the arrears and save our home. And you selfish, ungrateful child, you sent your own father to jail instead of helping us." I stared at her. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. They weren't just greedy. They were desperate. They had gambled everything on the golden child and her husband, and they had lost. "Why is the house in foreclosure?" I asked quietly. "Dad paid off the mortgage 5 years ago. I remember the party." My mother looked away, biting her lip. "We took out a second mortgage," she mumbled. And a third. For what? For Caleb, she whispered. He had some business ideas, investments. They didn't work out. And he had some debts, online poker. It got out of hand. We had to help him, Kristen. He's family. You mortgaged your paid-off house to fund his gambling addiction? I felt like I was going to throw up. And when that ran out, you decided to steal my livelihood to cover the hole? It's just a truck, she sobbed. We built a life in that house. How can you compare the two? That truck is my life, I said, stepping closer to her. And you were willing to destroy it to fix a mess you made. You didn't ask me for help, Mom. You demanded. You lied. You tried to poison my customers. And then you tried to rob me. We would have paid you back, she lied. I knew it was a lie. She knew it was a lie. No, I said. You wouldn't have. You would have bled me dry just like you bled yourselves dry for him. Officer Miller walked out from the back. Miss Anderson, we're ready for your statement. And do you want to press charges? My mother grabbed my arm. Her grip was like a claw. Kristen, please, don't. If you press charges, your father loses his pension. Caleb goes away. Who will help Tiffany with the kids? Please, just drop it. We'll go home. We'll figure it out. I looked at her hand on my arm, the same hand that had slammed the door in my face 3 years ago. I looked at Officer Miller. He was waiting. Yes, I said clearly. I want to press charges. Burglary, attempted grand theft auto, conspiracy, all of it. My mother shrieked. It was a primal, ugly sound. She collapsed onto the bench, wailing. I walked past her. I didn't look back. I walked into the interrogation room to seal their fate. The next 48 hours were a blur of legal paperwork and revelations that made my stomach turn. As part of the investigation, the police obtained a warrant for Caleb's phone to look for evidence of the buyer in Jersey. What they found was a Pandora's box of financial ruin. I sat in Sarah's office 2 days later. She was reviewing the preliminary discovery files that the prosecutor had shared with us because of the restraining order hearing. It's worse than we thought, Kristen, Sarah said, adjusting her glasses. She looked pale. Your parents aren't just broke. They are in massive debt. Over $300,000. How? I asked, staring at the stack of papers. Dad made good money at the plant. Caleb, Sarah said, sliding a spreadsheet across the desk. It started 4 years ago. Caleb convinced them to invest in a crypto opportunity. It was a scam. Then he borrowed money from loan sharks to cover it. Your parents paid off the sharks to keep Caleb's legs from getting broken. Then the gambling started. I read the numbers. It was a slow-motion car crash recorded in bank transfers. $10,000 here, $5,000 there. But here is the kicker, Sarah said, pointing to a specific transaction dated 10 years ago. Remember how you told me you didn't go to the state university because your parents said the college fund had been wiped out by the market crash in 2008? Yeah, I nodded. That's why I took out student loans. They lied, Sarah said softly. The fund wasn't wiped out. They cashed it out. Look at the date, August 15th, 2 weeks before Tiffany's wedding. I looked. A withdrawal of $45,000, labeled account closure. They used my college fund to pay for Tiffany's wedding? The air left my lungs. It looks that way, Sarah said. And the insurance settlement from your car accident when you were 18, the one they said barely covered the medical bills? The check was for $25,000. Your bills were only $2,000. The rest went into a down payment for Tiffany's first house. I sat back in the leather chair. I didn't feel anger anymore. I felt a strange, cold numbness. It was the feeling of a final tether snapping. For years, I had wondered what was wrong with me. Why am I not good enough? Why do they love her more? I had killed myself trying to earn their approval, but it wasn't about love. It was about utility. I was the spare part. Tiffany was the sports car. They stripped me for parts to keep her running. They stole from me, I whispered, since the beginning. Yes, Sarah said. And that's why you cannot back down now. They are drowning, Kristen, and if you throw them a rope, they will pull you in. My phone buzzed. It was a notification from YouTube, a comment on my latest video, a video I hadn't posted, but someone else had. A bystander had filmed the arrest at the food truck lot. The video was titled, "Food Truck Owners versus Thieves, Instant Karma." It had 50,000 views. I clicked on it. I saw my father crying in handcuffs. I saw Caleb screaming, and I saw the comments. Good for the owner, protect your business. Imagine stealing from family, trash. I eat at the Golden Grill. The owner is the sweetest lady. She deserves justice. I felt a tear slide down my cheek. Strangers protected me more than my own blood. I looked at Sarah. Go for the throat, I said. I want full restitution. I want the restraining order to be permanent, and I want to make sure they can never come near my business again. We have a leverage point, Sarah said. The prosecutor is offering a deal. If your father pleads guilty and testifies against Caleb regarding the other scams they found on his phone, your father might get probation. But Caleb is looking at 3 to 5 years. And your mother? She's facing conspiracy charges. Let them turn on each other, I said. That evening, I went to the truck. I hadn't opened for business that day. I needed to clean it. I needed to scrub the bad energy out of it. Mr. Henderson walked up while I was wiping down the counter. He didn't ask for a burger. He just handed me a coffee. I heard, he said. News travels fast in small towns. They used my college money for her wedding, I told him, the words tumbling out. They stole my insurance money. Mr. Henderson nodded slowly. Some people are black holes, Kristen. They consume light. You can't fill them up. You can only stay far away. I feel guilty, I admitted. My dad is in jail. My mom is about to be homeless. You didn't put them there, Mr. Henderson said sternly. Their choices did. You are just the wall they finally crashed into. He put a hand on my shoulder. It was heavy and warm. You built this. He pointed to the truck. You built a life. Don't let them take the bricks down. I looked at the golden paint of the truck. I looked at the A-grade health sticker. I looked at the camera lens that had saved me. This was the moment, the turning point. I could go back to being the victim, the dutiful daughter who sacrificed herself to fix their mistakes. Or I could be the CEO, the owner, the woman who stood tall. I took a deep breath. I pulled out my phone and recorded a short video for my channel, something I had never done before. Hey everyone, I said to the camera, my voice shaking slightly but strong. You might have seen a video floating around of an arrest at my truck. It's true. It was my family. They tried to take everything from me, but I'm still here. I'm still standing. And tomorrow, the grill opens at 11 a.m. sharp because nobody stops the Golden Grill. I posted it. The courtroom was cold. It smelled of old wood and anxiety. 3 months had passed since the arrest. We were at the sentencing hearing. Caleb had rejected the plea deal initially, thinking he could charm his way out of it. His lawyer, a public defender who looked exhausted, had eventually convinced him to plead no contest to burglary and attempted grand theft. My father had taken the deal. He pleaded guilty to lesser charges in exchange for testifying about Caleb's financial schemes, which apparently included identity theft of several elderly neighbors. I sat in the front row, flanked by Sarah and Mr. Henderson. Yes, Mr. Henderson came. He wore his old suit, and when he walked in, the sitting judge, Judge Holloway, actually nodded at him with respect. Tiffany was there. She looked disheveled. Her roots were showing. Her designer purse looked scuffed. She glared at me with pure hatred. "All rise," the bailiff announced. Judge Holloway read the file. He looked over his glasses at Caleb, who was wearing an orange jumpsuit. Caleb looked smaller without his arrogance. He looked like a frightened child. "Mr. O'Connell," the judge said, "you have preyed on your family, you have preyed on your community, and you attempted to destroy a legitimate business built on hard work. Society needs a break from you." The sentence? Caleb was sentenced to 4 years in state prison, with eligibility for parole after 2. He was also ordered to pay restitution for the damage to the truck, though we knew he didn't have a dime. Then came my father. He stood up, shaking. He wouldn't look at me. "Robert," the judge said, "you failed in your primary duty as a father. You chose favorites, and you chose crime. Because of your cooperation, I am suspending your prison sentence. You will serve 5 years of probation. But let me be clear. You are to have 0 contact with the victim, your daughter, Kristen. Is that understood?" "Yes, Your Honor," my father whispered. The gavel banged. It was over. As we were leaving the courtroom, Tiffany lunged at me. A bailiff stepped in, blocking her path, but she screamed over his shoulder. "Are you happy now?" she shrieked, her face red and blotchy. "He's gone. Caleb is gone. How am I supposed to raise 3 kids alone? How am I supposed to pay rent?" "Get a job," I said. It was the first time I had spoken to her in months. "A job?" She laughed hysterically. "I haven't worked in 10 years. You ruined my life. You have all that money and you won't even give me a crumb. You're evil." "I didn't ruin your life, Tiffany," I said calmly. "You did. Mom and Dad did by never letting you fail. Welcome to the real world." "I'll sue you for custody," she screamed nonsensically. "I'll take your truck." "Touch my truck again and you'll join your husband," I said. Sarah guided me away. We walked out into the bright afternoon sunlight. The fallout continued for weeks. The house. The bank foreclosed on my parents' house. They had 30 days to vacate. My mother called me from a burner phone, since I had blocked her main one, begging to move in with me. "Just for a few months," she pleaded. "We're sleeping in a motel. Your father is depressed." "I can't help you. I can't have you in my life." "But we're your parents." "And I was your retirement plan," I said. "But the plan failed. Ask Tiffany. You bought her a house with my insurance money. Go live with her." Tiffany lost the house," Mom sobbed. "She couldn't pay the property taxes. She's moving into a 2-bedroom apartment with the kids." "Then you better buy some air mattresses," I said. "Goodbye, Mom." I hung up. I sat in my car and cried for 10 minutes. I cried for the parents I wished I had. I cried for the little girl who just wanted to be loved. And then I wiped my face, checked my makeup in the mirror, and started the engine. I had a lunch rush to prepare for. The victory wasn't sweet. It was salty, like tears and sweat, but it was solid. I had my life back. I had my boundaries. Mr. Henderson met me at the truck the next day. He handed me a folded newspaper. "Did you see?" he asked. I looked. It was the police blotter, a small blurb about Caleb's sentencing, but next to it was a much larger article about the Golden Grill, announcing a franchise expansion. "You're expanding?" he asked, a twinkle in his eye. "Yeah," I smiled. "I signed the papers yesterday. We're opening a 2nd truck in the University District, and I'm hiring a manager." "Good," he nodded. "Who's the manager?" "Leo," I said. "He's been with me since day 1. He's loyal, he works hard. That's family." "That is family," Mr. Henderson agreed. I looked at the long line of customers forming. I saw familiar faces. I saw the community that had rallied around me when the reviews were tanked. I saw the people who defended me. I realized then that blood is just biology. Family is who shows up when the truck breaks down. Family is who stands by you in court. Family is the old man eating a burger on a bench, making sure you're safe. I had lost my parents and my sister, but I was far from an orphan. 1 year later. The alarm goes off at 6 a.m., but this time I'm not waking up in a car in a Walmart parking lot. I'm waking up in my own condo. I bought it 3 months ago. It has a guest room, which I turned into an office, not a storage room for someone else's junk. I make coffee in a kitchen that gleams. I look out the window at the city skyline. Somewhere out there, 3 golden grill trucks are prepping for the day. Yes, 3. After the trial, business exploded. The story of the food truck justice went viral locally. People came for the drama, but they stayed for Grandma Rose's sauce. I promoted Leo to general manager. He runs the day-to-day operations now. I focus on the business side, suppliers, permits, payroll. I finally have the office job my mother always wanted for me, but I created it on my own terms. I haven't seen my parents in a year. I heard through the grapevine, my cousin Jenny, the one who warned me about the key, that they are living in a small subsidized senior housing complex in the next county. My father works as a greeter at a hardware store to pay off his probation fees. My mother cleans houses under the table. It's a hard life for people their age, but it's the life they financed. Jenny is working too. She's a receptionist at a dental office. Jenny says she hates it, says she complains every day about how unfair life is. She's divorced Caleb. He's still in prison, apparently getting into fights and adding time to his sentence. I don't wish them harm. I just don't think about them. They are like a TV show I used to watch but lost interest in. Today is special, though. Today is the anniversary of the day I opened the first truck. I drive to the original location. The gold paint still shines. Mr. Henderson is there, sitting on his bench. He's frailer now, walks a bit slower, but his appetite is still intact. The boss lady returns. He grins as I walk up. "Happy anniversary, Mr. Henderson," I say, handing him a burger wrapped in gold foil. "On the house, and don't argue." He takes it. "You know, Kristen, I was a judge for 40 years. I saw a lot of people break. I saw victims become criminals. I saw good people get crushed." He takes a bite, savoring it. "You didn't break," he says. "You calcified. You became a diamond." I sit next to him. It cost a lot, I admit. I miss having a mom to call on Sundays. I miss Christmas morning. "You miss the idea of it," he corrects me. "You miss the fantasy. What you have now, this reality, it's worth 10 times that fantasy." He's right. I look at my phone. A text comes in from Leo. "Truck 2 sold out of prep, sending backup supplies." Another text from Sarah. "Divorce papers for Tiffany, final. You are officially removed from any liability regarding the old family debts. You are free, clear, and bulletproof." I smile. Freedom isn't just about money. It's not just about owning a house or a truck. Freedom is the ability to say no without fear. Freedom is knowing that if everything burned down tomorrow, I could build it back up again because I did it once before. I walked back to the truck and stepped inside. The smell of the grill, the onions, the spices, it smells like home. I put on an apron, just for old time's sake. I take a spot on the line next to the new cook. "Order up," I yell. The rush begins, the chaotic, beautiful, noisy rush of life. I am Kristen. I am a survivor. I am a CEO. And I am finally, truly full. Thank you for listening to this entire journey. Don't forget to check out the other videos on the channel for more stories of justice and survival. Stay strong, everyone.